empathy is huge, and we have to cultivate that sense in our children. What do you think it felt like to be that person? Or, wow, did you notice our server has 6 or 8 or whatever tables, and he's working so hard to really meet our needs well? Or isn't that great that we've been here enough and he knows you like hot sauce and he brought it anyway? Just helping our kids imagine what it feels like. And we can do that with little kids when we're reading a book or watching a Disney movie. What did it feel like to be Ariel? What did it feel like to be, whatever character? But when we help them understand, what did it cost that other human to provide this to me, it naturally grows gratitude in them.
Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, where each week we talk about ideas for raising kids who become thriving adults. I'm your host, Audrey Monkey. I'm a summer camp director, writer, and speaker, and I've had the privilege of working with thousands of children, teenagers, young adult counselors, and parents over the past 3 decades. My husband, Steve, and I are raising 5 kids who currently range in age from 15 to 25. So my interest in raising kind, optimistic, self-reliant kids who become thriving adults is personal as well as professional. Hi, Sunshine Parenting listeners. I'm so excited to bring you this episode of the podcast. This is episode 114, and I'm talking with my dear friend, Sara about Precursors to Gratitude. In the past, we recorded an episode about family gratitude practices, and in this one, we're talking about kind of setting our kids up to be able to build those gratitude muscles. So I hope you enjoy this episode, Precursors to Gratitude with Sara. Well, here we are again. I'm so excited. Welcome back, Sara.
Good to be back.
So I have you on the podcast today because last year, or was it the year before, we did a really fun episode about strategies for increasing gratitude in our families. And I'm going to share that one again, and I'll share a link in the show notes. But you have shared this concept with me that has been like an aha moment. I'm like, you're right, of course, which is there are precursors to, you can't just like start saying thank you or start doing gratitude practices and suddenly become this grateful person. So today I'm having you on to talk about the topic that you introduced to me, which is called the precursors to teaching gratitude. So explain a little bit about what you mean by the precursors to gratitude.
Well, I so often as parents, when our kids are little, one of the first manners we teach them is to say please and thank you, please and thank you. And they can develop the habit of saying thank you. It's a little robotic, but they know when they're handed an ice cream cone, they say thank you. But as my kids grew and I wanted their thank yous to come from inside of them, not me reminding them, I realized there's some foundational and family culture stuff that if it's in place, their thank yous come from them, not from me reminding. And so I call them precursors to gratitude because it's my work to do as a parent to set these things up and to cultivate these habits in myself and in my home so that when it's time for our kids to build the muscle of gratitude, it fits in, it's, kind of super powered and it's more authentic. So that's what I mean about precursors to gratitude. We can't just, even as we're rolling into, it's almost Thanksgiving, one of my favorite holidays, and I do not allow anybody in my family to talk about or celebrate anything to do with Christmas until we do Thanksgiving really well. But even rolling up to that, it's not just suddenly, okay, what are we thankful for? But have we cultivated a heart of gratitude, all year?
I love that concept. And as you were talking, I'm thinking it's probably really, you can think about that almost with other character traits too.
Oh, you're right.
Practicing kindness and practicing gratitude are good because you build the muscle. But what is like the underlying, the things that you've just kind of lived that help make you on the right path to be able to be kind or to be grateful.
Okay, I'm so excited about that. We need to have a workshop and, brainstorm with other parents about if we're longing for our children to grow in confidence or kindness or empathy or whatever.
Right.
What are our precursors? Okay, it's a date. Let's do that.
So it's like, I really like this whole concept of, because I feel like everything we do is like, 5 things to do to, help your kid be more empathetic and do it's like this short list. And of course it's appealing to have something that's, I'm going to start, sharing our 3 good things each day to feel more grateful. But it's deeper than that. The depth is kind of what we're talking about today in this precursor thing. And it's just some ways, it's almost like a mindset as a parent of a way of thinking about things and remembering the impact of kind of what we do. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the first precursor that you've come up with, of something that just to be aware of, that a way to help ensure that we can grow into grateful people and grow our kids into grateful people.
Sure. Well, the first precursor that comes to mind that I feel strongly about is that as parents and families, as adults, we really need to be careful not to overgive to our children. As parents, we just so long to meet their needs well, but we also feel compelled to meet all their wants. And by needs, I mean shelter and love and food and medical care and sleep, all the things that we need to thrive. And as parents, I hope we are capable of doing that well. Then we kind of get on this hamster wheel of, well, they better have the newest iPhone, or they better have the best kind of tennis shoes, or all the kids are going to that, tutoring lesson, or we've got to have, and we can overgive, we can overmeet their wants to a place where they do develop an entitlement. And if I don't long for something, I just get it all the time, it's hard to be grateful. Or remembering, if I earn something, I value it. And when we give too much, we can take away our kids' ability to be grateful. You say it really well. You say just because we can afford something doesn't mean we should afford something. So the overgiving piece is, it's rooted in a sweet and awesome place, but we've really got to guard our choices so we're developing grown-ups eventually who can work and earn something, who can long for something, who can have an appreciation because they had to wait or they had to grow into it.
I just realized that because I was thinking, well, okay, that's the whole delayed gratification.
Yeah, absolutely.
Word gratification has great,
grateful in it.
Yes. And honestly, I feel this a little bit even as an adult. For my own gratitude, it's also helpful to not over purchase for myself or over give so that I feel more grateful for what I have. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's things are more special when they're kind of fewer and far between and not just the norm.
Right.
So, you appreciate that, whatever, even just take a Starbucks coffee drink, if you get one every day, it's not as special, but if you only get it with your friend after you go for a walk together, for whatever reason, it's oh, wow, this tastes really good. And I haven't had it every day. So it's I kind of, it's something different.
Something special.
Something special. And so I really like that. And I think it is very hard. I think a lot of times, especially for people who maybe grew up not feeling like either their needs or their wants were met. And they just, like you said, it comes from such a good place. I want my child to have that, really cool toy or thing that the other kids have, and I don't want them to feel left out. I don't want them to feel bad. And so it comes, like you said, it comes from a good place. So it's just kind of balancing. Are we giving in a good way? Are we overdoing it? So I like that. It's the overgiving. It's not to not give to our kids. It's to give in a way that we're thinking through, is it the right amount? Almost.
Right. It's disabling them from being grateful. And it's not just the giving, it's the overdoing for them as well. I can do all their chores because they're tired, but they also need to learn that, chores are still chores. And being part of this family, you still have to do the dishes or take out the trash, or you still have an important part to play, even with a lot of homework. Now, maybe once in a while I do that, but then my child's grateful. As opposed to if I do all their chores for them because I'm feeling badly, well, now they're expectant. Why didn't you clean my room, Mom? And I have had some of my campers say, well, I never have to clean at home. Why do I have to clean up my cabin now? And we can overdo also. And kids still need to, age appropriately, build on that. And then when someone does serve them or do something special for them or do a load of laundry or whatever, then they get to be so grateful.
Right. Like, that was so nice, Mom. Because, like, say they do their own laundry regularly, but they're having a busy week, and you, as a, thoughtful gesture,
exactly,
do their laundry for them. Then they'll be like, wow, thanks, Mom. I really appreciate that you did that. Yeah, that's a really good point. So it's not just the stuff. In fact, maybe it's even more the action part too. I feel like sometimes I remember having moments, when my kids were younger where, I'd be standing in the kitchen and maybe getting dinner ready or doing whatever, something to serve the family a meal. And, the kids were just kind of either playing a video game or relaxing. It wasn't like, maybe some of them were doing homework or whatever, and I remember thinking that, wow, it's like, I'm like their servant right now. And so then I'm like, oh, hey, you know what? Come wash the lettuce for dinner. It's like,
come sit at the table.
It's like they almost don't even notice because they're so used to just seeing, they don't even think twice. If you do for them all these things, or even if, the Starbucks is there, if there's a Starbucks sitting in front of, that you just go through the drive-thru every day on the way to school or whatever it is, when it becomes so like regular or habitual that it's expected, it's harder for them to develop wow, that is such a yummy, awesome treat.
Exactly. And one of my kids' friends totaled, she just got her driver's license and she totaled 3 cars in 1 year. Gratefully, she was never injured. She was never hurt. They were big cars. But the new car came so quickly after the last accident that my child said, I don't even know if she's grateful anymore because she was on the 3rd car within like 9 months. And, it might have been helpful for her future ability to make all kinds of good decisions, to maybe not get a new car right away after the last accident. And I felt for her because she wasn't getting the chance to change her behavior or to be really grateful.
Like the accountability piece.
Yeah. So, kind of when we think of these precursors, one way to think of it is, what do I need to do to the soil before I plant my garden?
Yes.
Okay, right?
Great analogy.
So it needs to have a certain kind of soil. It needs some nutrients in it. Over time, I need to add some nutrients and fertilize it. It needs to be watered. Nobody sees the soil and nobody pays attention to the soil. But those flowers or those vegetables don't grow as well when the soil's not just right. And as parents, we're kind of responsible for the soil.
Well, and people's dispositions, our kids' dispositions, it's like you're starting with like different soil.
Yeah.
That needs either more or less like prep.
Good point. Absolutely.
So like sticking with that analogy, some kids just are naturally more predisposed to like notice and be thankful and be truly thankful. And others need, you gotta like shove all those tools down and really soften it up a lot more.
Yes, it's
true. So that's a great analogy. And like I said, it's like not just for gratitude, it's for all these things.
Yeah.
All these, even when you said confidence, I was thinking, you have to do things. You have to gain competence to earn confidence.
Right. Takes mastery.
You can't just make someone confident.
Right.
You need to actually, it has to take some time. And that comes from also learning that, it's okay to make mistakes, or you're not going to be good at everything the first, second, third, 20th time. So there's so much of that. I love this soil analogy. It's so, so good. Hi, Sunshine Parenting listeners. If you haven't already heard about my book, Happy Campers, I want to take a moment to tell you about it. The book came out in May of this year, and the full title is Happy Campers, 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults. I've been getting some really great feedback and comments about the book from readers, including the latest Amazon review written by Kristen. She says, Happy Campers has been the most helpful parenting book I have found. Audrey gives simple, everyday tactics to help every parent. The tips offered are easy to follow and to implement at home. Well written and well organized, I refer back to it often and continue to feel empowered by Audrey's solutions to common parenting struggles. This is a must read for every parent out there. Thank you so much, Kristen, and everyone else who's taken the time to give Happy Campers a review and rating on Amazon. I really appreciate your feedback and support, and thank you for reading Happy Campers. If you'd like more information about the book, visit happycampersbook.com. Okay, so we've talked about one precursor is just being more aware of not overgiving so that our kids don't become entitled, meaning they just expect. It's not even like, why should I be grateful? This is just what I get.
Right.
Or what I should get or something like that. Okay, what's another one of the precursors to gratitude?
Well, this precursor is actually probably the precursor to many, many, many character traits we want our kids to develop, and that is empathy. Helping our kids put themselves in the shoes of another and realize that anytime they get anything, it costs somebody something. It cost mom time and energy and thought to make dinner. It cost my teacher a late night of grading these papers to get them back to us early so we had a longer time to work on them. It cost a great example. I remember I was in college and I had a broken heart just for a little bit. And I had a friend who knew I had a favorite ice cream and he only had a bicycle and he biked to the closest store and they didn't have this kind of ice cream. So he biked several other miles to get to the other store, which had my favorite ice cream, and biked it back. And he brought it to me. It was just a encouragement gift. And we had a fun talk and shared the ice cream. And after he left, I realized what he had done, because where he lived and where I know they sell that ice cream, it was a farther way. And so I asked him about it and he said, yes, in fact, he had gone to the second store. And, you know, when I could put myself in it, he spent more time, more energy just to get that out of thoughtfulness for me. My gratitude for that very kind gift, you know, went through the roof. So empathy is huge. And we have to cultivate that sense in our children. What do you think it felt like to be that person? Or, wow, did you notice our server has 6 or 8 or whatever tables and he's working so hard to really meet our needs well? Or isn't that great that we've been here enough and he knows you like hot sauce and he brought it anyway? You know, just helping our kids imagine what it feels like. And we can do that with little kids when we're reading a book or watching a Disney movie. What did it feel like to be Ariel? What did it feel like to be, you know, whatever character? But when we help them understand, what did it cost that other human to provide this to me? It naturally grows gratitude in them. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think that's so true. And I think about how when you go out to, you know, in other countries, like when you're buying like chicken, for example, at the store, it's like a chicken hanging there upside down with all the feathers still on it. And you're like, you know, of course, it's kind of gross to us because we're not used to it. But we get so, you know, in America, we are just, you know, you go to the store and your boneless, skinless chicken breast is sitting there.
It's a beautiful thing.
And it's just there and it's so, you know, simple. And even something like that,
right?
To go to a farm or to see the process or to meet a family that, you know, whatever, chicken ranchers or whatever, it's really even just that, it just opens your eyes to, oh my gosh, you know, to get this stir fry. Wow. Like, that was a lot of work and a lot of people were feeding those chickens and all, you know, I don't know. So that like stepping back, all those through steps. Also just when you think about like clothing.
Oh, yeah.
And how things are made and all of that. When you were talking about your friend and the ice cream, I was thinking the reason I feel like, and I'm sure you're the same way, I value the personalized gifts that someone makes so much more at this point than the, you know, whatever, the one that someone just bought.
Right.
My husband is, I agree. I mean, I get it. He is so anti-gift card. He just does not like that. He's like, what is the point? He's a really thoughtful gift giver. So his kind of gifts that he has made a lot of really fun things over the years, just that very creative, that are very like specific. But even the things that he gives for like birthdays and Christmas are very thoughtful, because he's listening well to what the person wants. So it's like when he gives me a gift or he gives other, I'm like, I totally see like, wow, I can't even believe I barely mentioned this thing 6 months ago. And here it is.
Wow.
Or he thinks of something based on, without even me saying I want it. He like knows I'm interested in something, or, that whole thing is such a great skill. And yeah, so I think that's great, is just to think about what someone did, or a craft project. I mean, we were talking in the episode we were recording yesterday about the mom who made the word thing.
Yes.
And I just, I keep thinking about that. The gifts that you put time into, even if it's a photo album. For me, even a photo in a frame is more valuable to me than just like the empty frame.
Right.
Even if it's a beautiful frame.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is true. And I think, it's very easy. We are so, obviously we see the whole world from ourself, from inside ourselves. And young kids they're made to be self-focused. It's a
survival skill.
It is. And so there's nothing, that's normal, like developmentally. And then you get into the teen years, and even more so, very lot going on, a lot of need to be very thinking about ourselves. The world is from our perspective, but anything we can do to just like get them out of their head, like, whoa, gosh, that person really is working hard, or, oh my gosh, can you imagine? Even just thinking about like if you watch a sporting event.
Oh, right.
Gosh,
yes.
What must it feel like to be having to play in the snow, or I don't know,
Yeah.
So I do think empathy is such a key thing. In fact, I have a whole nother like blog post I've been working on that maybe we'll need to do a whole episode on it, because I've been doing more research just on this empathy thing, which is really kind of an intangible, harder thing to grasp, but such an important skill for all of us, or muscle for all of us to be working on as a precursor, like you said, to lots of good character traits.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think I shared this story with you recently, but we have some construction workers in our backyard.
Yes.
Thank goodness, repairing just a lot of years. And every morning they're there at 7 a.m. as my daughter and I are getting ready for school and work, and we wave through the window at them, and they've kind of become part of our family because we see them every morning at 7 a.m. And it was an especially hot day we were rolling into, and I said to Sasha, wow, they are on their knees with those knee pads on all day long, laying down those pavers. That would be really hard. I couldn't do that, especially at my age. And they just are so diligent. They just keep at it because there was just a lot of space they were covering. And just as she and I were talking about how hard they work, the fruit of that ended up being her interested in making cookies for them. And then after she Halloween trick-or-treated, she pulled out her favorites and then had a big bag of extra candy, which she gave all to the guys. And so she got to be more generous to them, as demonstrated from her gratitude. But it's the conversation. And even if you're a great exercises, if it's maybe been your child's birthday or Christmas, to say, I really appreciate this one gift your friend gave you. Tell me, how did they know to give that to you? And have them kind of think through that friend that was really thoughtful, that gave something. Oh, well, he knows I really like purple and I really like this team. And so, well, isn't that cool that he thought of giving you a Diamondback jersey or whatever it is, Again, that we need to kind of call their attention to that.
Right. I need people to call my attention to things sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
That's true.
I mean, I think just in terms of some people are really more observant and aware and thoughtful, whereas I sometimes get fixated and I'm working on something. So I like when people even gently point out to me, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, you're right. Look at this. And oh my gosh, how much time, I don't know. So I think that empathy thing is something we can all work on as a precursor.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. What else do you have as things that we can do to just sort of help our kids come out the other end, being just those kind of people that we really like because they are grateful for things that are done for them, for just grateful even just, for the simple things?
I think modeling, again, these are, what can parents do? I think modeling gratefulness, and especially for the simple things, is a third really important precursor. And, sometimes we as adults, we have high expectations, we get busy, and I think sometimes our kids hear us being critical of things or unsatisfied with things more often than they hear us being grateful. And so, thanking each other, thanking your spouse for something he or she did, that might even be a really normal thing, but to say, thank you so much. You're always the one filling the cars with gas. And it makes it so easy for me in the morning. I really appreciate that you are thoughtful that way. For my child to hear me say that is a good thing. Thanking our kids for what they do and demonstrating respect to them and thanking them. Thanking their teachers. We've talked about, perhaps instead of a Starbucks card at Christmas, writing a thank you note. Thank you for seeing my child and being patient with this and really working with this. And then having your child write that thank you note too. I have a 3 good things habit with some friends, and we daily text each other the 3 of the good things that happened that day. But I will share them with my kids, some of mine or some of my friends, because again, it's a modeling. Grown-ups do this. You can do this. Because if our kids never see us being grateful to the server or to our spouses or for that beautiful sunshine today, oh, we live in this amazing place. How will they suddenly become grateful people?
Yeah, it's so true. I think that modeling thing, and I mean, we've done very little in this area, but just when you get the opportunity to go see how most of the world lives.
And for sure, most of the world. Yes.
Most of the world, and even in our own towns.
Yes.
Parts of it. I remember many years ago doing a delivery thing, through our church where we were just delivering, I think it was like meals and gifts and stuff. And just the opportunity to, go in and meet these families that they were very grateful, first of all, for that, but also for our kids who have really only seen very much just sort of, what would it be called? Just like they've always had, their own bed, with a pillow on it.
Yes.
For example. And to see that there are so many families where, many kids are in one bed or multiple families are in one, apartment and that kind of thing. And just, that's not really modeling, but it's just also just kind of like exposure almost. I feel like if you're only living in sort of the bubble of, your neighborhood, which likely is safe, your home, which likely has electricity, and your kids have their own beds and have running water. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that we can also get very, almost desensitized. Like, well, of course we have hot running water. I think about that even when I go camping, like how you get back. I mean, I love being outdoors, but boy, I'm really excited to get back and get in my hot shower. And that hot shower feels like way better than the one that I just take every day.
Yes, it does.
You know what I mean? So
You're
it's
totally
almost like,
right.
I mean, so like it's weird how your experiences and what you do also kind of set you up.
It's a really good point. Yes.
Right.
Well, and when you're camping, those meals or backpacking, those meals out there, they taste like the best thing you've ever eaten because you worked really hard.
Right.
And then, to get to the place, and then you worked really hard inconveniently to make the meal. And they're so tasty. Yeah.
I remember, I went on this, my first really long backpacking trip. It was 5 days, and we had, the hard salami.
Oh, yes.
And it was back when we were allowed to take cheese, hard cheese and hard salami. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much I love salami. Because it tasted so good out there. And then, I got home and I'm like, I actually don't really like it. I was like, what is the deal here?
Yes.
But it's funny how your environment, that's another example. It's almost like your environment or a little more scarcity or a little more hunger from all the hiking makes you feel more grateful.
Yeah, you just don't take it for granted. It's really quite something.
Gosh, good point there. So I think we added another precursor.
I think we did.
Which was just the kind of that exposure to not always having the, all the daily comforts.
Yes. Well, let's add it to the list. That's good.
I like that. It's so good. Well, this has been so much fun. I think, are there any other kind of examples of things that you think you want to share, or stories about just ways we can just kind of set our kids up, get that soil really ready to really build our gratitude muscles?
I think the only other thing I would say is just whenever we do something in the daily flow of life, we do something daily, it just becomes, part of who we are as a family. So finding a habit or a ritual that's done weekly or daily, not just around the Thanksgiving table, although that's awesome, where we get to name something that we're grateful for and name, or actually practice thanking another person, especially maybe for not a glitzy thing, but a hard thing that they might have done for us or given to us. I think daily and weekly make things stick.
Yeah. I keep a little journal, and I really I start it with 3 things.
That's great.
That I'm grateful for. And it's interesting because oftentimes it's, after you've been sick, like I've had this cold, my voice is still a little croaky. It's like you wake up with a clear nose. Mm-hmm, and you're like, I'm grateful for my nose being clear. And it's just funny, had I not had the cold, I wouldn't know to be grateful for it. Or how about the things that you don't think about, like when you have a headache? I always often think, I'm like, gosh, I don't remember to be grateful to not have a headache.
Yes. Yes.
Like, it's just a crazy thing. But anyway, so I do think those things, and that kind of falls under the modeling thing. We as adults, if we practice this ourselves, that goes a long way, I think, in setting our kids up to be more grateful.
That's yes. And we were talking about earlier before we started recording, the silver linings to hard things.
Yep.
And modeling for our kids, not just complaining about the hard thing or bemoaning the hard thing, but say, wow, because of that hard thing that happened, I now take better care of myself. Or because of that hard thing that happened, I now am closer to those people that we had to work it out with. Or because of that hard thing, ... And maybe modeling the silver lining, the good that comes out of hardship. There's always something, but it's sometimes hard to name it if we're really only caught up in the hard thing, that it shouldn't have been that way. And I kind of begrudge that. But we can model finding silver linings.
Oh gosh, that's so true. And I think it also goes back to that thing of sharing with our kids our humanity. That they get to see, like, even if it's a story from, if you're saying something that happened 10 years ago or 5 years ago that was hard, like you lost your job and it was so hard and you were so devastated and everything. And then what, now looking back, what it's led to or something like that. Those kind of stories, that is really good. Well, we could just go on and on forever as usual, but we better wrap this one up, Sara. Thank you so much for coming on and for just talking about one of our favorite topics, which is gratitude. So appreciate you being on again.
Thank you always for having me on. It really is meaningful and it's a treat. So thanks.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the podcast. As always, I really enjoyed chatting with Sara, and she reminded me of so many great ideas around preparing our kids to be more grateful people. Gratitude is a topic and a character trait that I have been researching, reading about, and talking about for many years. So in the show notes for this week's episode, I'm going to share links to many additional resources if gratitude is something that you're wanting to grow in your family. You can find all the notes and links from this week's episode by visiting my website at sunshine-parenting.com. Search for episode 114. If you enjoy the podcast, I'd really appreciate you sharing an episode or writing a rating or review of Sunshine Parenting on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about my writing, speaking, and other work around raising thriving kids, I invite you to subscribe to my weekly email. Simply text the word HAPPY to 345-345 to subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you, raising a generation of kids who become thriving adults.
This podcast is a proud member of Parents on Demand, a network of high-quality shows for families just like yours. Download our free network app on Apple and Android and listen to your favorite episodes on the go.